All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into a bunch of LPDS universe, current event updates, stuff like that. Mainly LPDS universe focus this week. Got some ooh, big Taylor Swift updates for the Swifties who have tuned in as of recent, and we have a really nice Cage fact, a really nice Cage fact for you. All that coming up right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. Hope everybody had a good week. I had a very busy, long week, but with promise and some happy endings, I guess you can say. Some good stuff came along the way, and we'll get into all of that. Um, I don't want to talk about the Yankees this week because it's they stink. Giancarlo Stan, he's their only hope right now, and sometimes Judge, who's been for all for Judge, he's slumping, but he's still their best player on the team overall. It's not even close either, except for Stan. Otherwise, that's all I'm going to say about the Yanks, basically. But I do have some updates for the Swifties who have decided to tune in recently. And if you're still tuning in, obviously you're already tracking. This is old news by this point, but Taylor Swift got engaged. Travis Kelce popped the question in what looked like the secret garden. I don't know where that facility was, if that was their yard or what, but holy crap, the amount of time, effort, and money that went into landscaping and upkeep of that little garden situation that they were in, that's first world right there. That's first world amenities right there. And I wouldn't expect anything less. But man, was that some spectacular looking garden. Now, if those flowers were really, if they were vegetables, like some tomatoes, some peppers, maybe, then we'd be talking. Then I'd have to do like the whole Google Maps search to find out where that location is so I can find out how they're doing what they're doing. But anyway, congrats to the two. Super big news. Obviously everyone's talking about it if you're in the Swifty world. So I thought I'd bring it up. Also, I wanted to update everybody who cares anyway, on my journey through the T Swift albums. And I've talked about how I was going to go about this, but just as a reminder, I'm going chronological order, as if I'm listening to the albums as they came out. So all the way from the beginning, what was it, 2006 was her first album, Taylor Swift, up until now. So I'm going chronological OG albums. Then I'm doing all the Taylor's versions. And then the most recent will be the Poets one, Tortured Poets Department. And then by that time, her latest album will have come out, and I'll be able to catch up on that. But I'm still going to be behind because I still have to go back and do intel gathering on all like the Easter eggs and lore from all the original albums and stuff like that to get all the context and history to really be able to form good, good opinions of the albums and stuff like that. But right now, powering through chronologically, I have completed all the original albums, and I have just finished up actually the Speak Now Taylor's version. And I had to go and consult with Mrs. Wet Cat, the Catwoman, Wet Cat's wife. She's a big Swifty. She's been help guiding me on this journey. I had to go consult with her to find out why there wasn't a original album, Taylor Swift, the first album. Why wasn't there a Taylor's version of that? And she gave me the details. So I'm spun up on that now. I'm also spun up on why there is not a Reputation Taylor's version. And maybe just the vault tracks are coming out is supposedly what's going on with that. But it's starting to make sense to me now. So I just finished up the Speak Now Taylor's version, and I'm on to the next, whatever Taylor's version is. I don't know if it's, I don't remember the order. Folklore, Fearless. Maybe it's Fearless. I think it might be Fearless. I could be wrong, but I'll go. Maybe Fearless is before Speak Now. I don't know. Look, hand up. I'm not spun up on it. So I'm making these mistakes not on purpose, not because I have disrespect. I'm just new in the game, trying to figure it all out. So I'm working through the albums. I listen to them at the gym when I'm getting my workouts in, which is probably ironic and funny, but they're doing the trick. I think my favorite right now is a tie between 1989 and Reputation, but I haven't listened to Taylor's version of 89 yet, so maybe that's even better. I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted, but that's the Swifty update for everybody out there. Congrats on the engagement, and congrats on my progress through her albums. Moving on. I don't really have that much going on to talk about this week, and I'm real tired, so this might actually be a quick one. But I do have to pass on some good news, a good quality update. There's a couple things that happened this week that were good. I'm not talking about all of them. I'm just talking about this one thing that you guys are all spun up on already and tracking. But last week, I secured a wave back from my neighbor Lopan, sitting on his chair. It was 95 degrees out. I'm coming home from the gym. He's sitting on that plastic lawn chair, not the foldable one, just the stackable. You know, the white plastic lawn chairs that you can stack up on top. People stack on top of each other all the time. They're flimsy. His is not even white anymore. It's this sunburnt off beige kind of thing, just weathered and dilapidated. And if he wasn't 80 pounds soaking wet with a brick in his hand, the thing would have broke. Like, I cannot sit on that chair. But he's out there, long pants on, sweatpants, ripping heaters, not even breaking the sweat. It's 95 degrees out. Not even breaking the sweat. And every breath he's taking isn't a cigarette inhale. There's no like straight oxygen only going into his lungs. It's cigs. It's darts, baby. And I finally caught eye contact with him on my drive-by. I slowed down a little bit more than usual. And I had my hand and I'm waving like a maniac. And he catches me and he waves back and gives a little smile like a smirk. And we are good to go. I think now I'm eventually going to pull over one day, stop one day, and just talk, have a conversation, strike up a relationship, rip a few heaters with him, just build up a good friendship with the guy. Now that the seal has been broken, but that was a big win, and it came at a time when I really needed it. Let me tell you, that turned the tables for the rest of the week, because the last 2 days of the week I was getting things done. I had the confidence back. It gave me a boost of productivity and motivation and what have you. And it was a nice feeling. And that's all I got to say about that. I don't have any other current events I want to talk about this week. There's really nothing going on, certainly not in the news or anything like that I care to talk about. So, with that, we'll get right into the good stuff. We'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Catch the Damn Ball Glove Serum. Are you a baseball player who was touted as the next Derek Jeter, but the only difference between the two of you, besides the fact that you can't hit shit, is that you also can't feel the ground ball to save your life? Then get yourself a vat of Catch the Damn Ball Glove Serum today. CTDBD is an all-new, highly questionable sticky goo that you rub into the pocket and web of your baseball glove to make sure any ball that goes in there actually stays in there, so you no longer have to be known as the guy who makes the most errors in all of baseball. Simply apply the invisible serum liberally to the glove and instantly become not terrible at catching a baseball anymore. So to no longer be absolute ass on the ball field, order a batch of Catch the Damn Ball Glove Serum today by visiting www.hothandshanen.com. And if you use the promo code VOLPASS, you get 29% off your first batch. I know a lot of people who could have used that back in the day and who could still use that currently. Hopefully they don't make it a banned substance before it's too late. But anyway, get yourself some glove serum. All right, the cage fact. This was almost the most wild cage fact or cage update, I should say, that I have ever reported. It was this close to being the most cage-tastic cage update I could have ever provided. He is set to star in a movie coming out this fall. The teaser trailer just came out. It is a 23-second teaser trailer. It's just visuals and music in the background. There's no dialogue in it. The movie is called The Carpenter's Son. And the movie is a horror movie, a horror story about the upbringing of Jesus Christ. Now, when you look at the trailer and you see Nic Cage, for a second there, my heart stopped because I thought he was playing Jesus. And I thought I was going to get to report to all of you that the best to ever do it will now be playing the best to ever do it on film. Besides when he played himself in Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is a phenomenal movie. Top 5 cage movie. But he's actually playing Joseph. And some stupid kid is playing Jesus, I guess. I don't even know. I forgot who's playing Mary. Apparently she's pretty well known. I don't know her. But he's playing Joseph, and it's the horror version of a family who is hiding from, living in the Roman Egypt times, hiding from the bad guys to birth this special boy, and then it goes through the boy's upbringing a little bit and the dilemmas he has before he realizes he is the chosen one, I guess. And I can't tell you how excited I am to see Nic Cage star in a horror Jesus movie. I don't care how bad it turns out. There is nothing that's going to stop me from watching that film. You'd have to be nuts to think I'm going to not watch it because the story is horror Jesus and he's Joseph, he's playing Joseph. There's no way I'm not seeing that. I don't care how bad this movie's going to be. I'm already just expecting the worst movie of the year with the best performance of the year in Nic Cage's performance as Joseph. That's what I'm expecting. I'm fully expecting the worst movie of the year with the best performance in there. And it's coming out this fall. Nobody said a word about it until they dropped this trailer, this teaser, just this past week. And it's set to come out sometime this fall. So get excited, folks. And it couldn't come at a better time because it is leading into 2026, which will be another blockbuster year for Nic Cage. Blockbuster year. Because not only is Spider-Man Noir, the first season, supposed to come out then, starring Nic Cage, the John, I was going to say Joe Madden. The John Madden, is it biopic? Don't know. I'll never get it right. The John Madden biopic is also coming out next year with Nic Cage as John Madden. And if the rumors are true, he will begin filming National Treasure 3. And I just want to provide a quick reminder to everybody. I believe this was right after Pig came out in 2023, I believe. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But right as Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was getting ready to be released, I believe that was in 24. April 24, I want to say. Something like that. Maybe Pig was earlier. Pig was earlier than that. Pig was like 2020, 2019 or something. I don't know why I don't know why I thought Pig was after I left the LPDS compound in Maryland. It was before I left it, I mean. But we talked about this on the cusp of the release of Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Before we knew anything about the movie, all we knew was that Nic Cage was playing himself and co-starring with Pedro Pascal, who is a lifelong Cage fan in real life and models his acting in some of his roles off of Nic Cage's acting style, Nouveau Shamanic. We said it here. We, the LPDS universe, the Junction, you guys, we all did it. Said that the Nic Cage resurgence is upon us, and he will once again be at the top and stay at the top. Not that he ever left, in my opinion. We can argue all day about the timeline of him putting out made-for-TV movies when he had to pay off that tax debt, when his accountant stole all his money, and he had to deal with that. And those movies were not great, most of them. And he was banging them out. So we're talking like after Adaptation, around there, Matchstick Men, around that time, Family Man, those movies, up until Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. He had Ghost Rider, Bad Lieutenant, and everything else was kind of like, you have to see this movie because it's so ridiculous. You're not going to want to miss it. The movie stinks, but Nic Cage is in it and he's awesome. Drive Angry, Knowing, not Blair Witch Project, Wicker Man, all that stuff. And then we said, people forgot about him. People wrote him off. Not us, but people wrote him off. And we said here, we're holding the line. Nic Cage is coming, is going to be right back on the top, on the radar, where he always was for us. But you're going to start to realize it. All the outsiders out there are going to start to realize it. And this is further proof. He's playing in horror Jesus. He is the father of horror Jesus. If you don't think he's the best to ever do it, I don't know. I don't know if I ever want to hear your opinion on who you think the best is. Respectfully. It's just mind-boggling to me that this guy can do all this and still there's doubters. There's always going to be haters, I guess. At the end of the day, haters are going to hate no matter what. So, anyway, that's the Cage fact. We're moving on over to the Junction. Spin the logo up. Like I said, I don't have much going on, but the LPDS universe and the Junction are like, we're like a family here. Again, nobody else is, you guys are all ride or dies since day one. So I feel they're like a family here. So I wanted to talk about this because maybe this will help somebody, provide them a tactic, if you will, when they're feeling blue, when they're feeling down, because this works for me. And also to kind of just let, everybody know that what goes on behind the camera when when we're shut off, when the lights are out. That's real life. And it's not always hunky dory like what you see on social media. And I try to remember to remind myself that and everybody that regularly, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of comparing your life to the things you see that other people put out in public. And very rarely are people putting out, the not so great stuff. And when they do, most of the time, it seems fraudulent and disingenuous and for clout. Like when they specifically start recording themselves crying for short form videos. Uh, People can't relate to that. I don't think. I don't think people start crying and then they're like, "Oh, I better record this for the fans." I think when that happens to me, we're already rolling, and I'm talking through stuff, and then emotions pop up. Now, I'm not dogging on crying. Believe me, talk about that in a sec here, but um, my point is in all this is that you don't see what goes on behind the camera, and because you guys are such ride or dies and we're like a family, I don't mind talking about what goes on behind the camera with my life, as you know. And for any new listeners out there, you could go back to previous episodes since the beginning, and I have no problem airing out my issues and what's going on with me internally because it helps me. Selfishly speaking, that helps me talking through it and feeling like I have an outlet helps me, and I hope it helps other people too as well to kind of see again behind the curtain, and also maybe you're dealing with something similar, so it's okay to be dealing with this stuff. It's not out of the ordinary, and it's not wrong, and you shouldn't feel ashamed for having down times. And hopefully that helps you a little bit as well. So that's why I don't mind. I have nothing to hide. And that's the caveat here for this is my life's good. I have first world problems. And I am if anyone has ever worried about me, thank you, but don't you don't have to. I am I'm always good. At the end of the day, I take the step back and I can see like everything is always fine. Always gonna be okay if even if I'm feel down and out. I'm never in a position where I think, there's no way out. So I'm never gonna hurt myself. I've said that before. I love myself too much. I got there is I got too much left to give to you bastards out in the junction and to the rest of the world out there to be testing my shoelaces, the strength of my shoelaces. So don't you worry about that. No matter how down and out I may seem, I love myself way too much and I have too much left to do. And I will do it all. And when I am done with that, then I can go. Finished. I can go a champion. But that's not right now. So don't worry about that. But I've had what some would consider a rough patch going on the last uh, couple months, few months. And like I said, I don't talk about it regularly because it's really not all that bad. And there's a lot more good going on around me that I like to focus on, that makes me feel good, that I like to bring to you guys as well. But to be honest and transparent, behind the scenes, it is I am very much in the trenches. Still in the trenches with Spearhead. Now, for the past several months, in the trenches financially. My 9 to 5, if you call it that, to pay the bills and keep the lights on, is a contract gig. And there are not enough projects. Therefore, there are not enough hours to pay me, not enough work to do. So I have been on like a part-time status for quite some time now. And the finances have been tight. And I have not been doing much of anything with my life except for the Italy trip, which I believe I discussed ahead of time that it was a once in a lifetime opportunity as far as the cost of that whole trip, that I was okay going further in the hole. And I'm still okay with this all again, by the way. I'm still okay with it all. I'm going to figure it out. But um yeah, things have been tight, and they have been dark because I'm in the trenches with Spearhead with no light. I don't know when we're going to break through to the point of being, comfortably growing, which, that's a scary thought. And I know a lot of people have felt that in some way, shape, or form. And it's a lot of reasons why, it's the big reason why a lot of people don't get into their own thing because they don't want to be in this position. And I don't blame them. This is not a fun position. Scrounging for ways to, again, keep the lights on, pay the bills. I'm looking for online side hustles, like part-time jobs, entry level. I I am making the choice still to not go look for another full-time job because I am I am using this time and I'm using this hardship as an opportunity and a kick in the ass to push on Spearhead, full throttle on Spearhead, to get the clientele and to secure, speaking engagements, training opportunities, things like that, podcast guesting, all that stuff, to be able to do that, to take that full time. Now there's going to be a threshold where I have to, should I get off the pot when it comes to full-time jobs, but I'm not there yet. Like I'm calculating my risk here. But this is something that a lot of people, I don't want to say warn me about, but used as evidence to not choose the path that I have chosen in life. And that's fine. I appreciated that feedback. It gave me a lot of good info to think about when making my decision. And I just want to say I know that this was going to happen. It still sucks. You always hope that you never have to deal with this portion of starting your own business, this unknowing. But it's basically inevitable. There are people out there that it hasn't happened to. They're successful way sooner, which is great. I'm very happy for them. And what I try to do is not compare myself to them because then I get discouraged. Like, why have I not done it yet? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that about me too. And that's fine. It's their opinion. They're entitled to it. And it's none of my business what it is. But I'll not compare myself to the others. I don't subscribe to that, like going through social media and seeing all these people talking about how all their wins and this and that. That's great. I'm happy for them, for those people. I'm pumped for them. And I can't wait to be one of them. But I can't compare myself to their timelines and their situations. So I had to stay in the dark trenches. And like I said, I knew this was inevitable, but it still, hurts you a little bit when you're actually going through it. No matter how prepared you are for stuff like that, the feelings still play a factor that you can only anticipate so much the feelings when you're actually in the shit, if you will. It's the same with everything. It's the same with sports. You practice and you train and you train and you train to get ready for the big game, for the championship. Then like, oh, we're training, preparing to get to the championship so that when we get to the championship, we're ready. But then you get to the championship game and there's still the nerves. And you're still scared and nervous, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. What's going to happen? I hope nothing bad happens. Or like, you feel that everywhere. Going to combat. No matter how safe and trained and ready you are, and your mission is like you're not front lines, whatever it is you're doing is still, you still get, you still hack the mission. When you're when you're in the operating area, you feel it, and you can only do so much to anticipate the feelings, and that is why one of the things I'm so dedicated to and passionate about on the spearhead leadership side is training when it's easy. Because then when it's hard, your muscle memory will be able to kick in a lot more quality action and more effective action during those hard times because you train for it. You don't wait for it to happen. This is a big thing that I try to bring out to the world, to people when I talk to them, is the importance of training when it's easy, when you can learn the stuff and create the muscle memory. It's the Miyagi. You got to Miyagi yourself in life, in different aspects of life. Wax on, wax off, so that when the time comes and someone's punching you, you can wax on and wax off and deflect their punches. So when the time does come and you're in the shit, you have 90% handled, but I am dealing with the 10% now of the feelings and the question marks of like, I don't know when the next paycheck is coming. I gotta keep fighting and keep digging and keep plowing through these dark tunnels that we've talked about years ago, months ago, until I get to the other side, and I'm not gonna quit. But it is scary. It does create some stress and I don't want to say depression, but sad. I get down. It starts to get you know disheartening that I can't go do all the stuff I want to do with my life, like more vacations, hanging out with my friends, going to the movies, out to eat, things like that. Because I got to bear down and I got to tighten up the wallet while I'm continuing to look for these other opportunities and get these clients and build Spearhead to what I know it's going to be. And then, long story longer, I've been dealing with that. I'm in the shit, in the middle of that shit these days. And to get out of the shit, at least mentally and emotionally, I'm still physically in the shit. I'm still dealing with the financial stuff and the rejections and objections and people not responding to my outreach and stuff like that. I'm still dealing with that. But for the mental and emotional side, see, my issue is if I stay sad, if I'm sad or down on myself and I stay that way, productivity comes to a halt. So I need to get out of that. I need to solve the problem causing those sad emo feelings to be productive. I don't mind being in hard times. I'm used to that. I don't mind, like I said, I'm a trench guy. I don't mind being in the shit. But if I'm not feeling the way I need to feel to plow through the trenches, then I'm going to be stuck in that one spot in the tunnel there. And I can't have that because then I'll never get out of the tunnel. And the only thing that happens there is the tunnel caves in on me or I turn around and leave and quit. And I'm not doing that. And I don't want the damn thing to cave in on me. So I have to figure out some ways to get out of that. Now, a lot of times, for a lot of people, exercising is a great way to kickstart that and get the endorphins surging through your body to change sort of the chemical makeup going on inside you, cut the cortisol from surging through your body and get the good dopamines and endorphins going and drops your stress and anxiety and all the survival instinct things that happen inside of you when you're feeling stressed and anxious and worried about stuff. I exercise every day already. So that keeps me at least in one spot. If I stopped working out, I would definitely be going backwards, and I don't want that. So I work out every day. So I have to do something else as well to power through with a solution. And what works for me, and this is what I really want to talk about, I don't expect anybody else to make sense of this, but I wanted to bring light to it because, again, I want people to be okay knowing that stuff like this happens to people. And doing nothing about it only makes it worse. You can't sweep these feelings under the rug. When you're going through tough times and you start feeling those negative feelings, you can't sweep them under the rug and ignore them. Because they're still there. And eventually, they're going to spew out from underneath that rug. There's not going to be enough rug to cover up all the crap and all the feelings deep down. And it's going to make you worse and worse and worse. So you have to do something. You can't just sit there and wallow and look, and pity yourself and play perma victim. I have to do something. And hope maybe this is the second part. Maybe this is something that would work for somebody else. So that's why I want to put it out there because if it can help, I want to be able to provide that help to somebody. Even if it's one other person they listen to this and they're like, "Wow, that I might try that. That actually could help me." And if it helps them, great. That's all I want to do is if I can help one person get better every day, and you're doing, you're living a good life helping people. So what I like to do is I found that if I can get out my emotions viscerally, I guess physically, I don't know, I guess a physical manifestation of the emotions through like a good cry session, or like I do a workout, or I run, or I even just walk until I physically can't move anymore, until I'm just basically a dead with a heartbeat. And when I'm physically, like, if I do that, if I do a long run, even if I'm not in shape to do a long run, and I'm sore, I can't move anymore. My appendages are swollen. I'm hurting. I'm throwing up. Whatever it is, then I release emotionally. Like I just feel so defeated that I can get out like a good cry and be done and release it that way. I don't have the time to do that. The last time I did something like that where I was just feeling, I was in my feels and I was like, I got to go do something. I got to go, I'm just going to walk and run and move until I feel better. I I must have been out there for 8 hours. So I don't have the time right now to do that. I certainly don't want to be doing that in the Texas heat. Even though I do it around the neighborhood, I just walk in circles like an absolute psychopath. Imagine walking around in circles in your neighborhood, the same path for 8 hours. You guys can't do that. Nobody is mental enough to do that besides this guy right here. Nobody. And I've done it. And maybe I can thank my marathon training for that. I don't know. Because I used to have to run 10, 15-mile training runs after work at the track near my house in Maryland at night. And that's 15 miles. How many laps is that? 15 times 4. What is that? 60 laps? That's insanity. So I am no stranger to insane methods to make myself feel better without going to the insane asylum. So long story short on that one, I don't have the time to do that. So what I do is I get a playlist of sad songs. Okay? Now follow me here, fellas and ladies, if you're listening. Like I said, I need to get a good visceral physical manifestation of my emotions, which are sad and down, right? And that's usually from a good solid cry session. And I'm not ashamed to say it. Like I said earlier, I have no problem crying it out for stuff anytime. You know this. You've seen this. So anybody who belittles you, especially for the men out there, anybody who belittles you for crying about something, they're not they're hurting themselves. They got their own demons inside that are making them insecure. They got taught something not great in their upbringing that real men don't cry. Now, I'm going to be honest, there are thresholds. I don't think you should cry when for everything that possibly negative that happens to you in life. Like if you spill your milk or you miss the bus or any, like you don't cry about everything. You have to build up a tolerance and expand your comfort zone a little bit. Okay? But when you get emotional about something, when something hits the heartstrings that's important to you, don't feel ashamed for belting it out, for letting it go. People who do that, people who make you feel bad or joke about it and try to belittle you, they have their own serious demons. Somebody made them feel like shit for crying and put the fear in them that if they cry, they're not a real man. And I feel bad for those people. But I'm here to tell you, don't feel ashamed about that. I will never judge you for getting emotional about something as a man and a woman too, but specifically the men because of the stigma there. And I'm telling you, even now, there are still people I know, acquaintances, friends, whatever, that still have that attitude and try to tell me like, oh, you shouldn't be, I would never cry. Oh, good for you. Cool that you would never cry. Thanks for that. Super helpful stuff. Couldn't care less. I'm sorry that you feel that if you shed a tear, if you do a natural human thing, something bad's going to happen to you. That you're no longer going to be considered a man. I'm sorry that you feel that way. That sucks. But I don't feel that way, and I'm certainly not going to make you or anybody else around me feel that way. So, shouldn't be ashamed of that. Anyway, I will prime the pump with sad songs. Now, I'm a strange bird. You know this. I'm an acquired taste, not no factor on my end. I know what I am, and I'm okay with it. But I can't just listen to sad songs and start getting what I need to get out of it, therapeutically, if you will. So then I prime the pump with these songs, and then I'll go watch movies or documentaries or something in memoriams that I know will get me going. Things that like I feel warrant that level of emotion. And it's mostly like war movies based on true stories. Even if they're not fully true stories, like Saving Private Ryan is one of those. Like you can't watch the whole movie, get the whole storyline, everything that went on, and at the end, spoiler alert, at the end when he's the old man and when he's asking his wife, he's like, "Tell me I've been a good man." And you just watched the whole movie before that, knowing what these guys went through, and then to find out that there was a lot of World War II veterans that said, that D-Day scene that they filmed, that's as close to as realistic as we've seen any movie so far as visually, describing it. I watched Rocky Will Do It. Rocky 3, I've talked about that. When he loses Mickey, his trainer, tough. I watched American Sniper. Now say what you want. I don't care what your thoughts are and opinions are of Chris Kyle in real life. None of my business what your opinion is on him, but I'm not going to speak ill of the dead. But that movie, that hits home a lot because, again, I wasn't a frontline guy. I wasn't doing any of the crazy stuff that he was doing out there or the SEALs do or the Green Berets or the Rangers or anything like that. I wasn't killing Talibans with hatchets and stuff and losing limbs on IEDs and stuff like that. But that general feeling of you're you're still there even when you're back from a deployment if the job is not done, you feel like you're still a piece of you is still there and you have to get the job done before you can be ready to come home. And I felt that feeling a lot. I said it a lot too in the past. I I felt completely unfulfilled and as if I contributed nothing in the military until I deployed. And I was begging for deployments my entire career, and it took 8 years for me to snag one. And I know it doesn't make sense because the majority of the people in the Air Force don't have to deploy to have a career. I've known many, probably too many, higher ranking leaders, officers, I'll say. None of them are great leaders. Not a lot of them are great leaders, but higher ranking officers like colonels, lieutenant colonels that never deployed. They found ways to bounce around in their careers and stay safe and get all the cushy jobs that bump their career up and this and that. Uh, and it's more common than not. Like I said, especially in the Air Force, you could do a lot of different jobs where you can have a nice career where you actually contribute and really not have to deploy to a combat zone. You could do, tours in Germany and Korea and even Qatar, but they're not combat zones. And they're, even though some of them are considered deployments. But I need, like, for whatever reason, and it's probably just ingrained from, my childhood when I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid, since before I can ride a bike. I had it in my brain that I have to go do something. That's the only way I can serve my country is going out there and doing something and contributing to the fight somehow. And like I said, even though I was not front lines like the special ops guys, I knew that feeling. You get out there and when you leave, the thing is still going on and you feel that emptiness a little bit of like you just feel separate. When you come home, you just feel separated from everybody else. And it's near impossible to connect with, friends and family outside of that because they don't know what you what you went through. They don't know what's in your head. They don't know what you experienced, and it's not their fault. And they're not expected to know. It's my fault. I I am the one who went through that and have that feeling and can't connect now. And I can't figure out the ways to make them understand. So when I watch the movie American Sniper with Bradley Cooper, he does a good job like reliving that and making me feel that again. Of like, man, I know what that like. He didn't have to say anything. There was a lot of scenes in that movie where his wife is talking and having dialogue with him and yelling at him and asking him questions and stuff, and he's just staring into nothingness. And it's one of the only movies, off the top of my head that I watch it. I can't speak for other people, but I watch it and I'm I know that. I know that feeling. And I do what I can to prevent that happening around my friends and family, but I know that feeling where you're just not there. But you're there, but you're not there. And so when I watch that movie, that gets me going because that brings me back to that time, that feeling. and then I can let it all out. I can fire away, and it's and and then it's out of me. And I don't. I wish I wish the Wet Cat and Mrs. Wet Cat Catwoman were awake when we were flying on our Euro trip together, because I told them ahead of time. I said I'm gonna watch Saving Private Ryan on this flight, and this move before this movie ends, I'm gonna be in tears. And sure as shit, I'm sitting there covering my face. I'm using the eye mask to wipe down my tears, and they're both out cold, doing just in comas. And I should have been asleep, but I couldn't. I had to watch the movie. But after all that, after I can get all that out, I prime the pump with some sad songs to get the to spin the wheels a little bit emotionally, to get all the juices, they're all the sadness that's all spread out inside my body and soul. I get the songs, the sad songs, to get them co-located centrally inside my heart. And then they need to get out of there. And the only way out is through an experience that I can somewhat relate to or understand the gravity of. Losing losing a mentor and a trainer, Rocky, all the war stuff. That's my shit. I'll watch all that. The movie Warfare, that's a newer movie. Highly recommend that. Like nothing I've seen before as far as how it was filmed. It was basically filmed like one of the soldiers, one of the SEAL team members had a body cam on almost. It was higher quality than a body cam, but that's basically there was no contextual dialogue. There was no background stories. There was no different scenes from out. It was just straight up this battle, this operation. So another phenomenal one. Anyway, that's what gets the stuff out. And then after it's released, there's like a weight off my shoulders. I do feel physically lighter and just better in general for some reason. And I know people throw around the term cathartic all over the place. Look, you know me. I am familiar with the word. I can probably use it in a sentence and conversation, and and it'll still be generally correct, the correct usage, but I can't tell you what the specific definition is. Freeing, maybe, but if I can use a big $10 word, cathartic would be it. Getting that out helps me helps me take action on the sadness I'm feeling. And once that's out, now I'm back. I can move forward again in the trenches. I'm still in hardship. That doesn't solve the tangible issues going on in the world. But if you're stuck emotionally, this helps me get unstuck emotionally and mentally so that I can be productive. Now I go back to my process. And I have a damn good process that I help teach other people with Spearhead to to make progress and to succeed in the goals and aspirations of your life. So I'm back on the process. And I know and the progress is always going to be slow. I get that. And the results are not going to happen overnight, and I get that. But I'm okay with that. And I'm emotionally and mentally okay now. I'm clear again. So I'm back through the trenches, working my process, pickaxing, digging through the tunnel until I find the diamond mine underneath. And I'm good to go. So all that's to say, the lessons here, the big lessons I guess you could take away, if anything, is we all go through stuff like this. Don't think for 1 second that anybody else in this world, it has not gone through hardships in life. Stop looking at their social media and thinking that's the life that they live only. Because it's not the case. And don't feel bad because you have to deal with hardships as well. Because you're going through stuff and you're looking at all these people in private jets and Lamborghinis and on vacations constantly. You don't even know how they work, but they're always on vacation and living life and looking rich and successful. Don't compare yourself to them. You're not doing anything wrong because you're not there in that spot. They have their own shit too. It is normal to have shit to deal with. So that's the big lesson. It is okay. Please understand you are not bad and behind the times and lesser of a person because you have shit. We all have shit and it's okay. The second lesson is we have to find ways to get through this shit. We can't sit in shit. We can't do it. The longer you sit in this shit, the worse it gets for you and everybody around you. And no good comes out of it. You either become a perma victim where everything is always bad all the time and it's always somebody or something else's fault. And you never figure out how to get out of anything. So now your mindset is just everything is happening to me and it sucks. And that's what are you going to do? That I just got unlucky in life. And that's not the case. It's just going to be harder for you to get out of that shit now because you've created this circuitry in your brain to think that you don't have the ability to get out. It's always happening to you and you just have to sit there and wear it. So we have to find the ways to get out of our shit. Bad stuff's going to happen to us. Okay? No matter what we do in our life, there's still uncontrollables that go on in this world around us that we cannot control. That is why they are called uncontrollables. It's going to happen. And it sucks when it does because, again, it's no fault of your own. It just shit happens. But we have the control is how you respond to that shit. And if you respond by doing nothing and sitting and wallowing in it and playing the victim and spiraling, it's only going to get worse. And like I said, two things are going to happen. You're going to become that perma victim or you're going to spiral into a deep, dark depression and think there's no other way out than to test your shoelace strength, if you know what I mean. And that is not the answer. That is absolutely not the answer for anybody. So we have to, even when the uncontrollable shit happens, we are in control of how we respond. So we have to find a way to respond and get out of the shit. And I'll give you a very quick synopsis, very quick tip on how you can start doing this. And this is, again, something I talk about with people on the spearhead side. When you're in those positions, whether you caused the shit or it got caused by some outside factor and it happened to you, take a deep breath and ask yourself this one question. What is one thing I can do right now to make this situation better? To get out of this negative? To not feel this way? What is one thing I can do? And just by asking that question and starting to think of things you can do without even having to do the thing yet, your brain goes in solution focus mode. It is now thinking of solutions. And what it is no longer doing, it is no longer centering on your problem and the shit going on in your life. It is in solution mode. And that's the mode you want your brain in more often than not. That's the mode that's going to get you to the success you want in life, in every aspect of your life. So ask yourself that question. What is one thing I can do right now to make my situation better, to help solve this problem, to help not feel this way. And that'll help you eventually get out of your shit. And that is what led me to these cockamamie methods for me to get out of my emotional shit. No, it's not going to help me solve any money problems. I can figure out the ways to solve those money problems. I'll take action and take responsibility of that to figure out ways to do that. But the emotional side that comes with that, with those problems, I needed ways out, and I found them. And like I said, they're cockamamie, crazy ways. Going out there and running or walking and doing physical activity until you can't anymore. Yeah, it's crazy. Listening to sad, like force crying to get it out. Yeah, it's weird. Whatever. It works. And the third thing is, if this did help you, if this crazy method might be something that you think is going to help alleviate some of your emotional and mental weight that you're carrying at any given moment on the sad side of things, then I'm happy that it's going to help. And I would love to hear some feedback from anybody on how it went if you try that. Or if you have your own methods to get through certain shit, mainly on the emotional and mental side, let me know. I would love to hear them. You can call it in the hotline, 202-670-1114. You can be anonymous if you want. You can just DM me or text me, and I could talk about it anonymously if you're not comfortable outing yourself, if you will. But that's the key, is finding ways out to solve that issue, that particular, when I'm feeling down, I have to do something to get out of it. I can't just sit in it. And talk therapy does not work for me in that regard. Talk therapy helps me in other ways. But when I'm sad and down, or when I have a problem or I'm stressed about something, again, talking about the problem for me keeps my brain centered on the problem, and that doesn't do anything for me. I need to get out of that. And not by sweeping it under the rug. I need to get into a solution mindset. If I'm going to be talking to somebody about the problem, the discussion should be, here is the problem, and we can discuss a little bit of how it started and why it started and why it's a problem right now. And then the immediate rest of the discussion is, how are we going to solve it? What can we do? What actions can we take? What exercises can we do? With training, with things in that solution focus. That I need that. And I'm just speaking for myself here, but I can't do the talk therapy and just talk about my same problem week in and week out. Doesn't work for me. I need something different. And this works for me. This is a solution to get me out of the emotional depths, take that weight out of my rucksack so that I can continue powering through what I need to do. And that's all I have to say about that. Before we go, very quickly, the big three, the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, being able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. I just talked about all the reasons why I like exercise, all the chemical endorphins and stuff like that. But do one thing every day to improve your fitness, health, and wellness physically, mentally, or emotionally. And I'll go quick through them this time. If you're curious to learn more about the big three, hit me up. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. Get out of the negative. Okay? Get out of the negative. Even if you're not actively being negative to somebody, if you're living in the negative by doom scrolling on social media or on the internet all the time, living in the negative, you're going to spiral. You're going to create a negative mindset about everything. So when the opportunity arises to be negative and shitty to somebody else, even if you think they deserve it, especially online when it's so easy to just fire off a shit talk at a profile thinking there's no human on the other side, when that situation arises for you, take a deep breath, take the LPDS step back so that you can detach from those negative emotions. And then just remove yourself from the situation. Omit yourself from it altogether. Close your laptop, put your phone down, turn the TV off, walk away, whatever. That way you're minimizing the negativity and shit going on in the world around you and internally in yourself. And now you have the space internally inside of you to go focus on more positive, productive things like exercising, physically, mentally, or emotionally. I know it's the hardest one to do, though, because in the heat of the moment, the emotions are strong. The emotions are strong. And you want to just fire off that jab at somebody and correct them. And I showed them. Don't do it. I struggle with it every day. I have to fight for me every day. And I have failed a lot. I failed a lot on this show. And the reason I keep it in and don't re-record is because like I said, I want people to understand that we all do. Nobody's perfect. We're all human beings. I fail at that a lot, and I've done it on this show a lot, and I'm okay with that. I'm still learning, growing, and improving. Every day I'm trying to. Anyway, number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you can do this by just thinking about one thing every day. Start off by thinking about one thing to make it more realistic, so you're not just thinking, oh, everything. I'm grateful for everything. That doesn't have the impact. That doesn't actually put you in a state of gratitude. So just think about one thing that's good in your life, or one good thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours. Whether it's you met a person, you talked to a new gal, you got a gift from somebody, your air conditioning worked, whatever. One good thing in the last 24 hours, whatever it is, just think of that one good thing, and then think what your life would be like without that and how shitty that might be. And that will immediately put you in a state of gratitude. And the goal is to be in a state of gratitude as often as you can each and every day. So you do it more and more, a little bit each day. Do it 2 times one day, 3 times, 4 times, whatever. And if you do that, and if you omit yourself from negative situations, you don't be a shitty person, you be a kind person. And if you exercise every day, I promise you, repetition, 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 you'll start to feel it. You'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends and enemies and put your notifications on and hit that hotline 202-670-1114. For anybody new out there that is not familiar with the hotline, it's a voicemail. Call it up, leave a voicemail. You can ask a question, you can leave feedback, you can leave a joke, you can do an impression of somebody. I can rate the impression for you. You can work out a comedy bit on there. And we'll play it on a future episode. Obviously, it's a recording, so I'm not going to be able to listen to it live and have a conversation with somebody. But put it on there, and when I get the voicemails, when I get the hotline calls, I'll play them on future episodes, and we'll have a good time listening to the questions and the advice and the feedback and the jokes. And I love it. I love the hotline. I wish most of the show, I wish most of the Junction was hotline calls. So call the hotline 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.